From the crossroads of the Ozarks, it's PID Radio. Welcome, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and once again, we're coming to you from our living room. And the dogs are in the crate. They're not, the doors are locked. They come and go as they please, but I think they like to be away from us. They're sick of us.
Oh, they're talking again. They're doing that boring thing. Oh, let's go sleep.
They are so boring.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us as we begin another blather. Please download our app. Get that on your smartphone or tablet, iOS, Android, Amazon, Kindle Fire. We got apps for all of those. Links to those apps at gilberthouse.org/app or pidradio.com/app.
We've got so many websites. Why do we not have noblathercontrol.com?
Okay, getting on it, making myself a note.
Because we have no blather control.
And as we get older, it'll probably get worse.
Oh, yeah.
So we have also got...
I know, that's an oldie but a goodie. Yeah.
Also, excuse me, boy, that dry cough. Also, versions for Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Again, find the link at pidradio.com/app or gilberthouse.org/app.
We need a coloring book. Little coloring book of the dogs, and you can sit, and while we're blathering, and you just need to shift into neutral and pretend we're not doing it. Just you can color. In fact, you can multitask and actually do creative things. You don't need our coloring book.
No, that's true. That's true.
But color along.
The coloring book for Grace and Glory, though, would be really easy because you'd only need 2 crayons, black and white.
It's very true. Yeah. Although the little pink
the pink around
Glory's
lips. Yeah, that is pretty cute.
She's wearing lipstick.
Yeah.
I posted
is that a border collie thing or is that a boxer thing?
I think it's a number of breeds have that sort of look, so I'm not really sure. We think she's a border collie boxer mix with a little bit of pit thrown in. I've seen that. She's got little black spots that are sort of fuzzy around the edges of them. She's just got the cutest little coat. And Grace, beautiful coat. Yeah. That is all over the house. It is just, you can enjoy it in every room, whether she's here or not.
That is a fact, Jack. I mean, yes.
How does she have a coat?
She's in shedding mode right now, so we get these little, you wouldn't call they're tumble hairs. It's not tumbleweeds, it's tumble hairs.
Tumble hairs.
Yeah, these little balls of black fur that just kind of go rolling across the floor.
I clean them up, and then within 5 minutes, there are more of them.
Yeah,
they just come from everywhere, so I don't know. Another dimension, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Well, boy, I'll tell you, heads have exploded this week. I mean, we thought heads exploded the first 2 weeks of Trump's presidency. Week number 3, heads a-poppin'.
Yes. Well, if you're talking about the USAID,
Gaza, and the new office, the White House Office of Faith.
You know,
all 3 of those things really just...
Here's what kills me. The conservative right hated Biden.
Yep.
But there are some aspects, some people within the conservative right that hate Trump now.
Yeah.
He's giving us free speech back. No, he's not. He's lying.
Well, yeah, and so let's start with that. He named Paula White-Cain as the head of this White House Office of Faith.
She's a divisive person.
And she is a divisive personality. And there are a number of reasons why she is a lightning rod for criticism. People on the left, on the one hand, are just opposed to the idea of a White House Office of Faith to begin with.
Yep.
President Trump announced this.
It's a woman. Don't you like that? No, it should be a woman of color who has no faith.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Trump announced this week with an executive order that he was establishing this office to combat anti-Christian bias. And under the Biden administration, it was pretty clear that was a thing. I mean, there were Christians who were arrested. A grandmother, 72-year-old grandmother in bad health, was sentenced to a couple of years in prison for praying outside a clinic, an abortion clinic, and the clinic would be in air quotes there, for violation of the FACE Act. So, okay, you're not saying anything, you're not physically even if you were trying to block it, you're a 72-year-old grandmother in poor health.
What if she's just waiting for a bus?
Well, we could tell what she was thinking. Apparently,
that's just it. It's pre-crime.
It's right. And this is happening in the UK as well, but here in the United States, this was a thing under the Biden administration. So President Trump saying, look, we need to stop this. But if you are a progressive, which again, we'll put that in air quotes because it's really regressive, returning to a pagan worldview.
Yeah.
I know it sounds hateful, but I'm sorry. When you look at the facts, that's really what it is.
Well, some of them will hold up their hands with pride and say, yes, that's exactly why I'm a pagan.
Yeah. So creating a White House office of faith, that's creating an official state church. Well, unless that office of faith starts saying you must be a member of a Christian church, then no, it is not. It is not. It's the First Amendment says Congress shall make no law establishing or regarding the establishment of religion. So
But
first of
they
all,
cannot prevent our free exercise of our religion.
right, or preventing the free exercise thereof. That's the other aspect of this. And when you're starting to arrest and jail people for praying on the street outside a clinic, that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
So anyway, people on the left critical of the creation of the White House Office of Faith because it's a White House Office of Faith, and it's clearly a Christian faith. It's not designating a specific denomination. Now, people on the right, I've seen a number of criticisms of Paula White-Cain, Cain because she married Jonathan Cain, the guitarist for the rock band Journey. And there have been some criticisms leveled at her because of her personal history, like President Trump, like many of us. She has been married previously. You and I have both been married previously.
Yes.
So, okay, that to some, that disqualifies her. Secondly, she's a female and calls herself a pastor. That disqualifies her. Suggest you read Donna Howell's The Handmaid's Conspiracy. That is a misunderstanding, and I know this will generate some pushback.
There's a documentary on that coming out.
Yes, there is a documentary coming back, which both of us are part of. So suggest you read The Handmaid's Conspiracy because Donna Howell exegetes from Scripture and explains why women are not forbidden to teach or
To have an opinion?
To have an opinion, right. So anyway, but there are those on the right who are critical of that. There are those who are critical of her theology. She's a member of the New Apostolic Reformation. She's a word of faith teacher. And okay, well, we see that, we understand that. We do not believe that the word of faith, that prosperity gospel is a proper exegesis of the Scriptures. So there are problems with her, but all of us are imperfect. And I would say this is my opinion on the whole thing. If she stays in her lane and doesn't try to advance her own career, self-aggrandize or anything like that, if she stays in her lane and says, humbly, Mr. President, here's some examples of where I think we can make some changes, I don't have a problem with it. If she begins to use this office for more, if she starts saying we're going to impose restrictions on non-Christian religions, okay, we'll call that out.
I have my hand
Yes,
up,
Mrs.
Mr.
G.
Gilbert, and I have to say before I forget it, you know how I am. Two things. One, it's very early. We have no idea how she's going to behave in this office. And second of all, what if it had been Franklin Graham? You'd have still had people complaining about that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Oh, well, okay, we're going to say that, Roman Catholics are not allowed as part of this or other
What about T.D. Jakes?
T.D. Jakes would have been another divisive
black
figure.
pastor?
Well, especially because T.D. Jakes is undergoing some
I know that, but
right
my
now,
point is, skin color, background, conservative or not, you're not going to please everybody on the right, and you certainly won't please most on the left.
Exactly. This is an office that's intended to address government overreach when it comes to the public exercise of religion. If this office, regardless of who heads it up, whether it's Paula White-Cain or anybody else, goes outside of that remit, and tries to abuse government authority in this area, we will call it out.
Well, let's wait and see what happens. She may not even stay in there for long. We have no idea what tomorrow holds.
Yes.
Every day brings its own set of
Step
surprises.
back, take a beat, take a breath, eat some fruit, put on your foil hat, whatever helps calm you down.
Take it off, whatever.
Take off your foil hat, whatever. Let's just calm down and not, let's stop with the freak outs about everything.
Right. Well, as you mentioned, there are a lot of freakouts on both sides. And the left just hate him for anything. But the right even those who have supported him, some individuals are now looking at Trump as if he is qualified to be named Antichrist.
Yeah.
You and I have said this before, that we shouldn't be looking for Antichrist. And yet many of us in the prophetic, or those of us who are trying to understand Bible prophecy in the right context, it's tempting to see that as the next thing to look for, but actually the next thing to look for is Jesus.
Exactly, yes. Let's stop playing pin the horns on the Antichrist.
I wish I'd said that.
Yeah, trademark.
Oh,
We developed that into a party game.
there's a book title. A party game. Coloring book.
There we go. Next October 31st at church, we'll play pin.
Gosh, oh, such a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, look, as we've said before, we did this on an upcoming episode of Unraveling Revelation. I talk about it on tomorrow night's View from the Bunker. And this is not directed at any individual, any particular person. We've seen this coming from a number of people out there who are looking at President Trump and his moves regarding Gaza, which we'll get to in a minute, and saying, okay, he's dividing the land, he's presenting a peace treaty, a strong covenant with many, so therefore he's the Antichrist. Well, look, when you read Daniel, and Daniel chapter 9, I believe, I'm going to have to go back. I should have this memorized by now because we've talked about it so often in recent weeks, that strong covenant with many for a week, the final 7-week period of the prophesied 70 weeks of Daniel, that this is the time. Yes, I was correct. Yay, Daniel 9, beginning of verse 26, which is the 70 weeks prophecy. That 70 weeks begins at verse 24, but beginning at verse 26, you get down to the final period of history. The
Final
strong,
Jeopardy.
The final, yes, final Jeopardy. There you go. The final 7 years, the 7-week covenant with many, the strong covenant. There's a lot of stuff that happens before that final 7-year period. Its end shall come with a flood, and to the end there shall be war. Desolations are decreed. There's a lot of stuff that goes on before we get to that point, before the Antichrist reveals himself. So we don't believe we're there. Secondly, Donald Trump is way too divisive a figure. The Antichrist is going to lead the whole world together. He's going to unify the world and say, we need to go to war against Israel to stop Israel doing
And the
whatever.
world will see him as the fulfillment of whatever Messiah they're looking for.
Messiah, Mahdi, Avatar, whatever.
Yeah, the Maitreya, name it.
And President Trump, I'm sorry, just look at the way the world has reacted to Donald Trump. If Donald Trump were to say tomorrow, that's it, Bibi, I've had enough, we're going to lead the world to war against you, all the never Trumpers and all the left will say, no, that's it, we got to save Israel now. Donald Trump said oxygen is good. The left would hold its breath in protest.
That is so true. Well, covenant with many.
Yeah.
That's the really important part of that. Our modern understanding of that is, okay, he's going to have a treaty with, it's assumed, with Israel.
Right.
Well, that isn't what it says. It says with many.
That's correct.
So who are the many? And what's a covenant? A covenant is not necessarily a treaty. A covenant implies cutting something with blood. It's what Abraham did when he cut the pieces of the steer, the bull in half, and the Lord walked between them. Blood was shed. Covenant is to shed blood. It's this idea of almost a religious agreement.
Yeah, that's true. And what's interesting is in the Septuagint, which is the translation that was made from the Hebrew Scriptures into Greek in the 3rd century BC.
From a text that we don't have anymore.
Right. If you're not familiar, we talk about the Septuagint almost every week on our weekly Bible study. And we thank our friend Doug Woodward for really opening our eyes to this. He's got a 2-volume set called Rebooting the Bible.
He's not rewriting it. He's trying
No.
to help us understand it the way they understood it in the 3rd century BC.
Yeah, and the way the apostles would have understood it in the 1st century AD, since the Septuagint would have been the scriptures available to them and to all the churches in Asia and to the churches in Greece.
Right,
Yeah.
because they read books, they were well read, they read in Greek.
Right, Greek was
They wrote in Greek.
language of the realm. It was the international language back in the day. And the Septuagint translation, which was completed about 1,000 years before the Hebrew translation on which our English Bibles are based today. Daniel 9:27 reads, "And the covenant will be made strong for many." Now that's the Lexham English Septuagint, which is a more modern rendering. The Brenton translation, which is 19th century, Daniel 9:27 reads, "And 1 week shall establish the covenant with many. In the midst of the week, my sacrifice and drink offering shall be taken away."
Okay.
So what is the covenant?
And who are the many?
Right.
And is it possible the many, I think it's understood by most prophecy scholars that because it says midway through, 3.5 years in, that the sacrifices will be taken away.
Right, right.
That is assumed to be the point where the Antichrist declares himself the deity that you should be worshiping, sets himself up in the Holy of Holies, is how it's usually understood, and that the sacrifices to Yahweh will be taken away. That's the understanding. But what if the covenant with many is covenant with a bunch of pagan gods? What if it's not people at all?
Well, that's it. That's it. I'm not even sure. I'm going to have to do some study on this because I'm curious now as to why we sort of take it as a given amongst prophecy scholars that this 7-week period begins with a covenant with Israel, because it doesn't say Israel. And
It's because of taking away the sacrifices.
I
and
guess.
Also, no, and it's 2 parts. That's the first part. The second part is when Jesus was giving the disciples the list of things to look for. And he said, when you see these things, don't grab your coat, don't grab your iPad, nothing. Just run.
Yeah, because the second half of that verse is, "And on the wing of abominations, and for half of the week he shall put an end to sacrifice and offering, and on the wing of abominations shall come one who makes desolate until the decreed end is poured out on the desolator."
Right, and what does wing of abominations mean?
That is a really...
There is a phrase that is, and I can't remember if it's in Daniel or not, it's the wing of the temple, which is the corner area where Satan may have taken Jesus.
Yeah, but here's the Septuagint rendering of this. "And 1 week shall establish the covenant with many," this is Brenton, "and in the midst of the week my sacrifice and drink offering shall be taken away." Okay, this is being delivered to Daniel by Gabriel.
So speaking for Yahweh.
Speaking for Yahweh. "And on the temple shall be the abomination of desolations." That's...
And so the assumption is, A, there's a temple.
Right.
B, there are sacrifices for the first 3.5-ish years.
Yep. And what is the abomination of desolation? "And at the end of the time, an end shall be put to the desolation." Lexham English Septuagint renders it this way: "At the completion of the week, sacrifice and drink offering will be taken away, and upon the holy place there will be an abomination of desolation until the consummation, and a determined final destruction will be rendered upon the one making desolate."
I think most prophecy scholars assume that that's the image of the beast. That is the abomination.
Yeah.
The way that the statue of Jupiter was put into the Holy of Holies, put into the temple, rather.
It would have been Zeus at the time because it was Antiochus Epiphanes, so he's Greek.
Yeah.
But yes, and a sacrifice of a pig, which of course is an unclean animal. Translator's notes from the Net Bible, New English Translation. The referent of the Hebrew word kanaf, or wing, is unclear here. The Septuagint and Theodotion have the temple. But again, the Septuagint was translated 1,000 years before the Masoretic text.
Right.
So the Masoretes changed it in some way.
To put in temple.
Right. but interestingly, the abomination of desolation is something that was referred to by Jesus. When you see the abomination of desolation, run. That was Matthew 24, isn't it?
Yes, I think so.
So again, our point is there's a lot of stuff. Let's see here. Let me see if I can find this.
There are a lot of assumptions made, because again, the Lord is not going to. He's the best general ever. He's not going to give away every part of his plan to the fallen realm, which is why Bible prophecy is sketchy. He's giving us basics. He's giving us hallmarks so that we can sort of recognize it as when it happens. But as we look towards the future, it's very difficult to know exactly how that's going to play out.
Yeah. Matthew 24:15, and also parallel verses in Mark and Luke. So when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel standing in the holy place, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let the one who is on the housetop not go down to take what is in his house, and let the one who is in the field not turn back to take his cloak. And alas, for women who are pregnant and for those who are nursing infants in those days, pray that your flight may not be in winter or on a Sabbath. For then there shall be great tribulation, such as has not been from the beginning of the world until now, no, and never will be. And Daniel mentions this incident, Daniel 8:13, Daniel 9:27, which we mentioned there on the wing of abominations, but again in the Septuagint, it's the abomination of desolation. Mm-hmm. Daniel 11:31, forces from him shall appear and profane the temple and fortress, and shall take away the regular burnt offering, and they shall set up the abomination that makes desolate. Mm-hmm. Daniel 12:11, and from the time that the regular burnt offering is taken away and the abomination that makes desolate is set up, there shall be 1,290 days, mm-hmm. which is a
30 days longer than the 1,260 days,
yes.
which is half of, it's 3.5 years.
Yeah. So that's a number of days, a period of time that Bible scholars are still wondering about. So, the abomination of desolation, a big clue mentioned 4 times in Daniel. Jesus references it, said, when you see it, run. Mm-hmm. And now there are those preterists and partial preterists, those who believe that prophecy is either partially or was wholly fulfilled in the first century. Wholly, W-H-O-L-L-Y, totally fulfilled.
By Antiochus Epiphanes.
Antiochus, but in 70 AD it would have been Titus, so the Romans.
Oh, that's true, yes.
But Antiochus setting up the abomination of desolation, the already but not yet fulfillment seen by Daniel. But then again in the first century, the destruction of the temple by the Romans, the Roman armies appearing outside the walls of Jerusalem being the abomination of desolation. So
Glory has rejoined.
Glory has rejoined the chat. So anyway, all of this to say that there is a lot of stuff that has to go on before we get to that final period. And Donald Trump is just way too divisive, and he's pro-Israel to boot. He is not going to be the one who sets up the abomination of desolation at the temple in Jerusalem.
No, I don't think so. But as you say, okay, we could spin the entire PID radio, and we do like to talk about Bible prophecy because the very reason we started all this in the first place, we both love, politics, and we both love news. We're news geeks, and what are you looking at?
I'm just checking the time.
Oh, sorry. But we also love Bible prophecy, so trying to find the spiritual, the theopolitics behind the geopolitics is something we love to do. But again, we're just given hints, clues, outlines of what's going to happen, but we're not given a full story.
Right.
Here are the bullet points, what you can expect to see, but even the bullet points are sort of obscure.
Yeah, it's like Paul saying we see as though into a glass darkly.
What?
We are looking into a mirror in a room that's insufficiently lit. We're only seeing shapes and outlines behind us. What we're saying is the shape of the Antichrist does not fit the shape of Donald Trump, or vice versa.
I don't think it does. I really don't. And I know that some listeners, we respect you for this. If you do disagree with us, we understand and we respect that. We have our opinions, and there are many who disagree with us. But
clearly, based on my social media feeds this week.
But that's okay. We're all trying to figure it out. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. But let's look for Jesus.
Yeah.
And don't fixate on trying to, as you say, pin the horns.
Pin the horns on the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Mike Heiser said at Skywatch TV's conference back in 2019, as he was giving a talk, and I was standing in the back of the room listening to Mike, and I was standing next to Tom Horn. And Mike said, okay, I might step on some toes with this, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly, but he basically said, if you somehow managed to identify every last member of the Illuminati, but you didn't share your hope in Jesus Christ with anyone around you, what have you really accomplished? And I looked at Tom because I was curious to see how Tom was going to react to that, because we had a full house, a couple thousand people there listening to Mike, and thought, okay, this is, people who've been following Tom Horn for a long time are very much into the Nephilimery, as we call it around Skywatch
also,
TV.
the last pope and things like that.
You're right, the final Roman emperor, the last pope, prophecy of the popes, all that. Tom was, really into finding those things, not to, come up with exciting ways of seeing the world around us, not to feed into the adrenaline rush that comes from doom scrolling. No, it's to show, hey, look, the enemy is really hard at work here, but our God is more powerful.
Yes.
And I looked at Tom, and Tom just had this great big smile like he's saying, you go, Mike.
Oh, I know.
Because that's it. At the end of the day, Mike was absolutely right. If we don't share the blessed hope in Jesus Christ, we have accomplished nothing. And that's one of the reasons. Early on in PID Radio, if you go back and listen to our archives going back to 2005, and you can do this inside our app, both on the TV version and on the mobile version. Look into the classic PID Radio stuff. We've got it broken down by year, 2005, 6, 7. Archives going back in all of those years, and listen to some of those programs as we were going through the news back then. We have forgotten.
Oh, we've forgotten far more than we ever talked about.
Yeah, and it's really funny. Every now and then somebody will send me a note. Did you know about this? And I'll like, yeah, let me do a search at PID Radio. Yeah, here's a program from 2008 where we talked about this. Not that we're that smart. It's just we've been doing this for a long time.
20 years.
Which is why they keep calling us the OGs, the old geezers of Christian podcasting. So
that is what we are.
And as we've done this for a while, we've begun to learn, at least I have, speak for myself, that letting the adrenaline rush take over. Oh my gosh, have you seen what the World Health Organization is doing? Or whatever. Isn't necessarily productive. It's like, okay, as you keep telling me, it's understandable, but as you keep telling me, as I'm looking at, can you believe what they've done in, blah, blah, blah. Derek, Psalm 2, why do the nations rage and imagine a vain thing?
It's a vain thing. That's the great part of it.
Remember that the money quote from Psalm 2, he who sits in the heavens laughs, the Lord holds them in derision. The globalists think they're winning. The Jesuits think they're winning.
You can
the
name
Freemasons think they're winning.
Name anyone that you think is running the world, and they're not.
They're not.
They're given a very short season in which to, supply the rope for their own hanging.
Exactly, because that's what it is. As they stand before the great white throne, like, oh, we were misinformed. No, I'm sorry, that is not going to be a suitable defense.
Nope.
So
it will not be.
Well, so anyway, our message is just calm down. If things are not going the way they should, we will call them out the way should you. We are called to be gentle as doves, but wise as serpents, and that's what we hope to accomplish here.
That is so true.
Well, definitely got to talk about President Trump's redevelopment plan for Gaza.
Oh, because, good grief, yes.
Heads explode, and hey, we've got speakers lists now for some of the new conferences to come up later this year.
Oh, good.
We will reveal those and more when PID Radio continues.
Ooh, what a tease.
God's creation is full of mysteries. What were the giants in the Scripture? Did dinosaurs roam the earth in the days of Noah? Are we alone in the universe? Join speakers L.A. Marzulli, Derek Gilbert, Michael Hoggard, Mac Dominic, Sharon Gilbert, and Micah Van Huss to explore the topics your Sunday school teacher didn't talk about at the Mysteries of the Bible Verse event in the greater Indianapolis area, June 13th and 14th.
The Bible has answers for many of the mysteries that have confounded humanity since the beginning of time.
That is so true. And we can answer those mysteries from the Bible. So we want to arm your children and grandchildren with the truth. And that's capital T, truth.
Fearless investigations into the most exciting book the world has ever known. The Bible's Greatest Mysteries, hosted by Derek and Sharon Gilbert. Every week, right here.
Welcome back to PID Radio. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert. We're going to be all over the place, but in October we're going to be in Israel. If
Yes.
the Lord wills it, we will be in Israel, and right now it's looking like the north is open again.
Yes, Mondo Gonzalez of Prophecy Watchers told us this week he was in the Ozarks here to record some new programs for Skywatch TV. He's got a book about the red heifers, which is another thing. People, they've got the red heifers. Yes, they do.
Yep.
Don't let your adrenaline spike. Yep. Very
Hey, consider
interesting.
that joy.
Yes.
It means the return of our Lord is near.
Exactly. So anyway, he said that, and if you go with us in October, our plan, we visited Shiloh every time we've gone.
Yeah.
So we will go and see, assuming they're still there, the red heifers, but we'll also be in the north. Now that's open, that we'll go to Tel Dan, where Jeroboam set up one of his golden calves. We'll go to, if Bethel, we can get there, we'll go there and see the place where he set up the other one. And I'll explain why the golden calves was actually the worship of Molech. Yeah. Gilgal Rephaim, and a couple of other megalithic sites now that are open.
Yeah, in
Karbet,
fact,
Beta-
not that many people who go to Israel go to Gilgal Rephaim.
No.
So you will be in a very small group of
Yes.
people who have ever been there.
And if we can work it out, I've already notified the archaeologist who's done the most recent excavations there and at the nearby Serpent Mound of Bashan. He said he would love to meet with us. So I don't know if he'll have an opportunity, if his job will allow him to come and speak to the group. But if we can work that out, boy, Dr. Mike Freakman, he is a wealth of knowledge, and he's got firsthand knowledge for what took place there.
And he's a lot of fun, too.
Yeah, he is.
He's got a great sense of humor.
He looks like a biker.
He does. He really does. He has, didn't he make Aliyah from Russia?
I think so. Yeah, he is a Russian Jew, but his so he's got the look. He's got a Fu Manchu mustache, shaved head,
Yep.
and a very burly guy. He's been serving with the IDF. He's done 2 stints in Gaza now since the beginning of the war. So yes, even archaeologists who are no longer in their prime fighting years are being deployed by the IDF. But he is wonderful, and a real interesting mind when it comes to trying to figure out what was done at these megalithic sites, including the one overlooking the Jordan River where we think Jesus was baptized.
Yeah, we're going to try to go to that one too. This will probably be just one bus. Derek and I will be the only leaders, plus, of course, our guide and the driver. And we had planned on going with the Iron and Myth guys, but because this is now in October, we changed the date from spring to fall. They've got other commitments that all of them do, so sadly they cannot go with us in October. But if that's when you want to go, is Iron and Myth, we're going to go next year.
Yeah. We'll have the dates confirmed. I've got to get with Judd, Tim, and Doug.
Yeah, probably.
And, probably April.
Yeah, sometime in mid to late April, after the holidays are all over.
Right, but we will let you know about that. All the information and a place to reserve your spot in the upcoming tour, or tours as the case may be, will be at gilberthouse.org/travel.
Well, that makes that easy. Also, if you go to gilberthouse.org/ store, you're going to see that while we don't ship anything physically from our barn anymore, we link to a lot of places where you can buy our books, you can watch our films, you can get DVDs of our films. And by watch, I mean you can stream them online.
Yeah,
so you
instant
don't have to
access.
pay for shipping.
Right.
Yeah, instant access. But you can also get Light Hive Creations T-shirts and hats and mugs. With,
Well, PID radio T-shirts from Light Hive Creations.
Well, yes. But they also have other stuff than
yes,
ours.
they also...
Light Hive Creations is an amazing organization by Kenny C. and his fiancée, Gidget Manning. And they do our stuff, GHTV, PID radio, the
Red Wing Saga, the Armored Sheep.
Armored Sheep, yeah. But also do Skywatch TV and Vicki Joy Anderson and Doug Van Dorn, I think.
Yeah, Giant Steps podcast, right. So all of that is at their location, but you can link to it by going to gilberthouse.org/store.
We should just, put links for their stuff, like Doug's and Vicky's and stuff, and just say, you have to go to our site to get there. Actually, no, it wouldn't really matter because the proceeds all go to help buy instruments for kids who are taking lessons with Kenny C, but their families can't afford to buy them the instruments.
Right.
So it is a great way to help out young musicians and get a little bit of merch.
Yeah, exactly. Represent.
Represent.
As the kids say, represent.
Oh, yeah.
So, gilberthouse.org/store. I don't think, looking back at the video of the press conference from this past Tuesday, I don't think that Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, was expecting President Trump to announce his plan, his idea.
What are you eating? Just curious to see what's going on out here.
Grace and glory outside.
Yeah,
Hi,
those
girls.
who have dogs. Who's been good? Come here.
Oh, that's the magic phrase. Who's been good? That means it's a treat. I don't think Netanyahu was expecting Trump to make that announcement about Gaza and say that the United States would go into Gaza, would rebuild Gaza, how did Trump put it? He said we would own it and we would do a job with it too. We said a few years ago that the difference between how the left and the right takes Donald Trump. I mean, we on the right take Trump seriously, but we don't take his every word literally. So when he says something, it's like, okay, that's Trump being Trump. He didn't mean it the way it came out, or he's being hyperbolic, or he's a businessman and that's his opening negotiating position. We don't take every word literally. Those on the left, at least back when he first ran for president in 2016, they didn't take him seriously, but they took every word literally so they could, point and shriek. He said
sort of
this.
like in, what's the movie?
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, this person's not been replaced. Point, shriek. It is, that's the big difference. So once again, they're not taking Trump seriously, but they're taking his words literally. He said he's going to go into the United States is going to own Gaza. It's ethnic cleansing. This is horrible. He's terrible. He's literally Hitler.
How can you literally be Hitler?
Yeah, I know. They've been saying that for 8 years now.
They don't seem to understand what that means.
When everybody's Hitler, then nobody's Hitler. That's kind of how it works. They've kind of ruined their own talking point. I don't think President Trump literally meant the United States would take ownership of Gaza. He's not talking about making Gaza a United States territory or the 51st state or anything like that. I think what he meant was the U.S. would go in and rebuild, level it. Gaza's basically been mostly demolished anyway. Just level it, clear it, and begin reconstruction. And we would be responsible for it. I think that's what he meant in that sense. We would own it. We would be responsible. But even so, as he was saying it, and it wasn't that he was delivering remarks off the cuff, because he was clearly reading from a statement. So it was something he'd been thinking about for a while. I still think when you saw Netanyahu's face, it's like, what?
I have a theory on that. If Trump's speech was prepared, he would have told Bibi in advance, I'm going to be saying this, but looked surprised. Because that allows Netanyahu to say to his people, I knew nothing about this. This was a total surprise.
Plausible deniability.
Exactly.
Yeah. Reports coming out a day or two later, Netanyahu expressed support for what Israeli media was calling a scaled back version of what Trump had proposed, which again, I think is his way of trying to kind of walk a center line. What I think Donald Trump was trying to do, and again, he's a businessman. When you negotiate, it's like I think something a lot of people can relate to. When you list your home for sale, you don't list it at the price you're going to settle for. You list it for a higher price. Then the buyer comes in, they make an offer, you give a little bit, you counter offer, they give a little bit, both sides have given a little bit, both sides think we win, it's a win-win, everybody's happy.
It's the negotiation between Abraham and the cave, the owner of the cave at Machpelah.
Yeah, the Amorites.
Yeah. Oh, what? No.
What are 400 pieces of silver between you and me? Yeah. Yeah. It's like, no. Here, take it from us. Yeah, it's negotiation is what it is. And that's what Trump did. He's opening this position. But the position is so radical that the whole world has come out against it. It's like, what? The whole world is shocked, as though what they've been doing for the last 90 years is somehow working. And that's what I think Trump is trying to do. He's trying to get everybody he's trying to shift what's called the Overton window, which is a term used to describe the range of acceptable policy options. And so far, the range of acceptable options seems to be two-state solution, two-state solution, two-state solution. So
yes, from
very
here
narrow.
to here, about a quarter of an inch.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant because the left has been decrying they live in refugee camps. They're all so hungry and dying and poor. Well, many of them are poor, but that's because they are governed by terrorists. So shouldn't the left be happy that Trump wants to remove the quote-unquote refugee camps and put in some really good housing and create jobs and businesses and bring in tourism and actually make the land flourish?
If they were honest about what they wanted for the people of Gaza, yes, that would be true.
No, I'm talking about yeah, exactly.
But what the left really wants is the destruction of Israel.
Yes.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
So
and the claims about, they're living in whatever. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Look, I'm sorry. Here we are 75 years after the 1947, really, it began really in 1946, but the war, the first Israeli-Arab war. And back then, by the way, it was Arab-Israeli or Israeli-Arab. It was not Palestinian. That was a branding choice that was made at the instigation of the KGB, of Russian intelligence in the 60s, to brand the Palestinians as somehow ethnically distinct from the Jordanians and the Egyptians and the Saudis. No, they're all Arabs. They are Arabs. And this was not their homeland until the 7th century, when the Arabs came from Arabia and conquered the land.
Now, the Philistines were mostly Greek.
Mostly Greek, yeah. You look at the genetic makeup of those who've been dug up and tested from the bronze and early iron.
Right.
Yeah, the Philistines.
So if you want to say, my family's lived here forever, you're Arab, aren't you? Well, yes, proudly.
Yeah.
You're not Philistine.
Because,
you're not Greek.
Look at what the Philistines were eating. There's a lot of slaughtered hog bones there, and pork is just as anathema to Arabs as it is to Muslims as it is to Jews.
You and I have written a lot lot the movement of the Amorites, and they moved into the Greek
Canaanites.
Islands. And,
Canaanites were Amorites. They were not Arabs. And so the claim by the PLO and its representatives over the years that we are descendants of the Jebusites, we're descendants of the Philistines, we're descendants of the Canaanites. So. No, that can be disproved with DNA. It's just
and
it has been. That is not true. 75 years on, and they're still living in refugee camps. Really? Okay, we're talking like 3-4 generations of living as refugees. The Native American tribes who were treated badly Okay, and we can say this as the descendants of European settlers who moved here in the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries, were treated badly, lost armed conflicts with the European settlers, the United States Army, but within a generation or two, we're like, okay, this is our new reality. And we've got friends who are American Indians who've proudly served in U.S. military and are proud to be Americans. At some point, you have to say, this is our reality. And there are many Arabs who live inside Israel who are happy to so do. In fact, the Druze Arabs of Syria, looking at how Israel has treated their Arab relatives on the Golan Heights, the Druze, want Israel to annex that part of Syria so they can become part of Israel rather than try to live with Muslim Arabs, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the group that took Damascus away from Bashar al-Assad. So there is, at the end of the day, if you're going to be honest, you have to look at the conflict as a spiritual conflict. And it is all about destroying Israel, destroying the Jews, and taking the land that God has decreed as his home, taking the mountain, his Har Moed, his Mount of Assembly, and claiming it for the God served by Muslims, who I argue I've changed my opinion since I wrote Bad Moon Rising. I believe that it is the God referred to as Kronos, Saturn, Dagon, Molech.
Yeah.
That is Allah in my view.
I agree. And I also think that entity is, eventually he's going to be released, as you say, the second coming or the return of. But he's been working through proxies, not only his children, through human women, the Nephilim, the demons who are the spirits of the Nephilim whose bodies were destroyed in the flood.
Right.
But also the fallen angels who were sent after the flood at the post-Babel event. And some of these angels have been working along with this whole coalition. If you want to talk about the Illuminati, look at the spiritual Illuminati. These are the ones that have positioned themselves as the infernal council, whatever you want to call them, and they are the ones ruling the world, presently ruled over by a woman, an entity who claims to be a woman, but also claims to be a man. She's both this and she's both this and that. Inanna, who is also the goddess Ishtar and Athtar, and she is a war goddess, she's a sex goddess, and we're not talking about love, we're talking about ritualistic sex magic.
Yeah, carnality.
Carnality, absolutely.
Violating
and she
taboos, gender
turns
fluid.
Boys into girls, girls into boys.
Yep.
She only has priests who are no longer boys. They've castrated themselves, and they have to do it to themselves.
Ugh.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's really nasty. But she's presently in charge, but as we see in the destruction of the Whore of Babylon, she's going to be pulled down by other members of that coalition.
Right, yeah, the 10 kings of Revelation. Friends of ours, I know that prophecy watchers, both Gary Stearman and Mondo Gonzalez, have suggested that the 10 kings are tech oligarchs.
Well, they may be humans working with the spirits, but I think ultimately there are 10 spirits.
And maybe that's how they work through it. In fact, I'll have to explore that idea in the God game. Anyway, but we think at the end of the day, those 10 kings, given that this is a supernatural war, are entities. If you want to call them fallen angels, that's fine. Small e Elohim, that's probably more accurate. But the entity called Inanna by the Sumerians, Astarte in the Bible, Aphrodite, Venus, and probably other manifestations, Artemis, Diana, Queen of Heaven. But the thing to remember again is that they ultimately are defeated. The Bible prophesies their destruction. Isaiah 26.
And Psalm 2.
And Psalm 2, yeah. But Isaiah 26 talks about how God will punish kings on the earth, but the host of heaven in heaven. And the sun and the moon will be confounded and shut up for many days as though in a prison.
Yes.
I think that's a prophecy of the future destruction of the rebellious small g
in
God.
fact,
Psalm
that's
82.
repeated throughout Joel, the sun and the moon being
Yeah.
shame, the sun and the moon being darkened, sun and the moon being turned to blood, over and over and over. It's, I think, as you said, this is an indictment against these deities.
Psalm 82 with, though you are gods, all of you, sons of the Most High, like men you shall die and fall like any prince. Psalm 24 was the one I was trying to think of. Psalm 26 is the one that's the destruction of the Nephilim, but then also their progenitors as God destroys the land of the impious, or the land of the ungodly, as it's described. Isaiah 26:19, that's in the Septuagint translation.
Right.
But Isaiah 24, beginning at verse 21, on that day, Yahweh will punish the host of heaven in heaven, the angelic realm, and the kings of the earth on the earth. They will be gathered together as prisoners in a pit. They will be shut up in a prison, and after many days they will be punished. It's like, okay.
By the way, for those of you who find the Septuagint really interesting and you want to learn more about it, Derek had mentioned earlier, first half, he talked about Doug Woodward's 2-volume set, Rebooting the Bible. It is all about why the Septuagint is so important, and he takes a look at the changes between that and the Masoretic text and why the Masoretes may have changed things. One of the things that they did that I think is so interesting is that they punched up a scene here and there. Well, we almost like, we need an explosion. Well, let's put in some tension. Well, David, what are you doing here? Saul,
Yeah.
I'm your armor bearer. Remember that? Remember me?
Yeah.
No, it's like, oh, the dad says, go take lunch to your brothers. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's not in the Septuagint.
No, exactly.
The Septuagint.
None of that's in the Septuagint,
Right.
because he was the armor bearer.
Yeah. Who are you? Who is that young man running across the field to face the... Do you not know? He's been carrying your armor for a while now, King Saul.
Brother. Yeah, there are a lot of things like that where it's just, this isn't exciting enough. Let's add some tension.
Right.
But mainly it's to remove that second power in heaven.
Yeah.
So definitely get those books. But back to Trump. Some of the other things he's doing, I am just having the best time, because the DOGE office, the Department of
Government
Efficiency, which is from Elon Musk, and he's also a very divisive person. The USAID money. Oh boy, there is a website, and I sent you the URL. I think it's datarepublican.com. Is that it?
Yep, datarepublican.com.
You can go in there and you can type into a search box whatever name or organization you want, and it will bring up a tree of, starting at USAID gives to XYZ Corp, which gives to ABC Corp, which gives to 123 Corp, which gives to someone, which gives to someone else, which gives to this person. And the very person at the very end is sometimes a big surprise, but that's the person you searched for. So you can see if, say, I don't know, an NGO that you think is a little suspicious. You can put that in there and see if they've received any money through all of these various spin and dry locations. Wash, rinse, dry, wash, rinse, dry, wash, rinse, dry. And then finally it gets to the last person that you've put in. And I was really surprised to see that, if you've listened to us for very long, you know that one of the YouTube videos, channels that I watch, is Jesus Enrique Rosas. He follows geopolitics. He follows celebrities. He's a gamer. He loves television. He is, I don't think he's a Christian, because he's talked about reincarnation a couple of times, so forget that part of it. But he has a very sharp mind, and he's funny. He's also been a comedian, and he's an expert on body language analysis. So he looks at body language analysis of politicians and celebrities and this and that. And one of his favorite subjects is Prince Harry. And Prince Harry, since he's moved to the United States and he's sort of become a de facto American citizen, but he's not, because he's here on a visa, which, by the way, the Heritage Foundation has been in court trying to get access to Prince Harry's visa to find out what he actually said on it, because in his book, Prince Harry said that he admitted to taking all sorts of drugs. But the problem is, when you come into the United States on a visa and you are a druggie, you admit to taking drugs, you don't get your visa. You come back, show us that you've taken drug tests, that you've gone through counseling, that you're going to be clean, and then we'll give you a visa to come in. Of course, you come through the border during the Biden administration. You could bring drugs with you. It doesn't matter. You could get in, no matter what, because the door was open back then. Praise God, it is now closed, down 94% just in the last few weeks.
Yeah, 94% reduction in encounters at ports
the
of
border.
entry.
So apparently, the Archwell Foundation, which is co-owned by Prince Harry and his wife, Meghan Markle, who's an actress. I won't even go into all of the things about her, but just Harry and Meghan. Archwell Foundation received $13 million.
Huh.
Why would they receive $13 million? What does because if you look at the Archwell Foundation tax returns, you'll see that they really haven't given out much money. Their foundation is incorporated through Delaware. And the Prince Harry and his wife have, something like 15 or 16. They have quite a number of corporations that have been set up through Delaware. They did that before they even moved to the United States. I think it was being done by one of their lawyers. And they're using those just the way NGOs use, it's a bunch of little revolving doors that money goes through. And who knows where it goes, because the Archwell Foundation gave some money to former President Biden's daughter.
Interesting. Yeah,
Is that maybe why the former president did not want to release Prince Harry's visa application?
Could be.
No, I don't know.
I didn't
Looks
want to push it.
suspicious.
What's interesting is that President Trump was asked about this yesterday, and he said the headline reads, Trump will not pursue deportation for Harry, quote, he's got enough problems with his wife, end quote.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch. But I loved also when he was asked about, who was it that was on was it Elon Musk who was on the cover of Time sitting behind the Oval Office?
Time magazine put out a cover with Musk sitting at the Resolute
and
desk.
Trump's answer was just pure gold. What? They're still a thing? Time magazine's still a thing?
Time magazine still in business? I didn't know that.
Because it's not what it once was.
It is not. And President Trump, I think that was the appropriate response. Instead of getting prickly about it, it's like, oh, they're still in business?
Yeah, he's pretty funny. So yeah, lots of things are going, but USAID has been financing. They built, money from USAID going through quite a number of little doors, finally got to Gaza and financed the construction of and operation of a cement factory. Now think about those tunnels.
Yep.
You can't build your tunnels without rebar and some cement.
Here is a list of 25. This is from an X post by a gentleman named Mark Buffington. List of 25 USAID spending items that have been highlighted in public complaints or discussions based on recent web information. $1.5 million to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces and business communities.
Serbia?
Yep. $70,000 to produce a DEI musical in Ireland.
Oh.
$2.5 million for electric vehicles in Vietnam. I did read about that one. They built one charging station.
Oh.
$47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia. $32,000 to produce a transgender comic book in Peru. $2 million for sex changes and LGBT activism in Guatemala. $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt. Hundreds of thousands of dollars for a nonprofit linked to designated terrorist organizations even after an investigation was launched. This is one of the things that Doge, Musk's group, found as they got into the U.S. Treasury payment systems. They found that Treasury officials had been told, don't deny payments to anybody for any reason ever. Payments were just to go through, rubber stamp them,
Oh, okay.
Don't question a single one. Just send them all out. $2 million to EcoHealth Alliance, which was the group behind the gain of function research at the Wuhan Institute
Peter
of Virology.
Was his last
Peter Daszak, I think.
Yeah, I think that is it.
Let's see. Funding to print personalized contraceptives in developing countries. Personalized, yep. $16.8 million to support equitable outcomes, DEI basically, in Vietnam. $8.3 million for equity and inclusion in education. $7.9 million to teach Sri Lankan journalists to avoid binary gender language. Binary gender, male and female.
This is Inanna writ large.
Yeah, $8 million we're going to spend to teach Sri Lankan journalists. $6.3 million to study men having sex with other men in South Africa. $20 million to produce an Iraqi version of Sesame Street.
I've actually seen AI videos that were created, and this is probably what it would look like, Bert and Ernie, with Kalashnikovs.
Yeah. $520 million, $500 million for environmental, social, and governance, ESG consultants in Africa. Nice work if you can get it. $45 million for DEI scholarships in Burma. $2 million for Moroccan pottery classes.
These are all ways to pollute other countries.
Yes, exactly. $2 million to promote tourism to Lebanon.
Let's spread spiritual wickedness the world over.
Yeah. Specific dollar amount not specified, but apparently USAID sent money to send Ukrainians to Paris Fashion Week.
Oh, gosh. And of course, USAID also helped to prop up quite a number of media organizations.
Yep. Yeah. Let's see. Politico received something like $44 million now, is the number that I've seen most recently.
Yeah.
Started with 8, then went to 24, 32, now it's $44 million they've figured out. Because the government, they need to subscribe to Politico Pro to find out what's going on in government. They're in the government. They should know.
You'd think.
Yeah. $50 million to send male prophylactics to Gaza.
But if they're not personalized, what good are they?
Well, exactly. $30 million for AIDS programs in South Africa. $25 million for green transportation projects in Georgia, not the state of Georgia, the nation of Georgia. This is being mocked for suggesting that the country of Georgia needs Teslas and Rivians and so forth. And here's one that is really a killer. $200 million plus to fund irrigation for poppy fields in Afghanistan.
You are kidding me.
Nope.
Oh my goodness.
We went into Afghanistan and the production of opium poppies surged. The Taliban
had said no.
Yeah, they basically eliminated the production of opium poppies, which is key to the world heroin trade. And after the United States went in there in 2001, suddenly the farmers were growing, because they can make more money at it. They can make more money. The Taliban has gone back in and has cut the production again, but so it says the Taliban's poppy fields. I suspect the Taliban is cutting those down. Here's one of the reasons, and this was something I included in the book, Bad Moon Rising, because I wrote about the influence of Inanna and deviant sexuality on, I know not popular to say, but on Islam. One of the reasons that the Taliban came to power in the first place is because they put a stop to a practice called boy play. That's the English translation of the Afghan words. As bacha batsi, I think, is the words. Our soldiers encountered this firsthand as we were over there driving the Taliban out. They would hear the
Little
cries of boys,
screaming.
10, 11, 12 years old, screaming and crying. They would go to find out what's going on, found out that the warlord, whose forces we were supposedly allies with, were using these boys. That is a thing in their culture. And our soldiers were told to stand down because, quote, it's their culture, end quote. Some of our soldiers did not stand down. A couple of them were dishonorably discharged for beating up an Afghan warlord for abusing a child. In one case, the child was found chained to the bunk of
Oh,
the, yeah.
gosh.
And so anyway, and then it comes out that not only were we protecting this deviant practice, that's their culture, and it's not limited to Afghanistan, sadly. Now I won't rabbit trail down there, but there's a chapter in the book, and in fact, you can read it in one of the recent posts to our Substack channel now, gilberthouse.substack.com, where the chapter on Inanna goes into this, how that religion has twisted the intended relationship between men and women. Anyway, and then find out that our soldiers are over there protecting the production of opium poppies for heroin that is destroying our civilization. So, and this is what USAID, these are just a small sample of what USAID has been funding. USAID has become a slush fund for left-wing projects.
Well, that's the thing to remember. When you see, let's say it's $100 million earmarked for this particular use, not all of that $100 million went to that use. Someone in between that is not listed made money, made a lot of money. In other words, it's a personal piggy bank.
Yeah. And sadly, there are good programs that are going to be eliminated as part of this revamp. I've heard from some folks who know missionaries working in Africa who have programs that are being funded in part by money from USAID, but USAID, which was created by John F. Kennedy in 1963 to oversee this foreign aid money being sent, has been twisted over the past 60 years into, well, just the insane priorities that you just heard us reading out here. It is,
Griftapalooza.
Griftapalooza, yeah. And that is why the left is just going bananas. It's been used as a slush fund. It's been used to launder money. A lot of it probably coming back to people on the left and people on the right too. I mean, there are, because these programs were not just administered under Democrat administrations. You had the Reagan, the Bushes, you had in there. So
think of all the billions that have allegedly gone to Ukraine.
Yep.
Well, Zelensky says they haven't seen most of it.
Yeah, we're supposed to have sent something like $200 billion or $100 billion, and he's only seen like 70. It was like roughly a third of what he's supposed to have received. He said he's only seen about a third of it.
And he wants nukes now.
Yeah, and yeah, a lot of that money being sent to Ukraine was being turned around to American arms manufacturers in the first place, but a lot of it was being skimmed off by Ukrainian generals who are driving really nice cars now. So anyway, there's a lot going on. And is there a danger of throwing out the baby with the bathwater by ending USAID? Yeah, probably. But the programs have not ended. USAID as an organization is being shut down, but the programs have been rolled into the State Department where Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, he's delegated somebody to administer this. And so they're going to be going through and determining what is worth keeping. But, I mean, we just look at the amount of money that we have been spending on these programs. And again, ultimately, the money winds up back in the hands of oligarchs. Like
this is not theoretical money. These are our tax dollars.
Yeah. And the United States has been adding, under the last year or two of the Biden administration, we were adding $1 trillion in debt to the federal deficit every 100 days. That is just unsustainable.
Some of that was because of USAID.
Some of that. Now, USAID is a $50 billion organization, which, I mean, U.S. Department of Defense is like $900 billion. So $50 billion compared to that is small potatoes.
No, I realize that, but that's just one of the, the leaks in the ship.
Yes, exactly. And then you've got other departments like the Department of Energy, Department of Education, and they're squalling about that, because Trump wants to shut down the Department of Education. We forget that we didn't have a Department of Education until 1979 under Jimmy Carter. At the time, the United States ranked first in the world in education. We are now 24th.
It's made it much, much worse.
It's made it worse.
Yep.
So
the more money we throw at it, the less education you actually get.
Yeah, the real beneficiaries are again, a lot of these left-wing initiatives.
Yep.
Well,
we have really run long again.
we have, but we promised to let you know we got some speakers lists for some of the conferences coming up, which we can share with you now. By the way, 2 weeks we will not be here because the weekend of the 20th through the 23rd, I will be in Canada. I started looking ahead at some of the long-range forecasts for McGregor, Manitoba, home of the Valley View Bible Camp. It's supposed to be dry, but cold.
Well, of course, it's Canada in the wintertime.
It is Canada in the wintertime, yes. My ancestors who lived in North Dakota will be saying, you're just soft. So be there for the weekend, speaking 8 times over the course of 3.5 days, Thursday evening, Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning. And the theme of the weekend.
Staff with you?
I'm taking my staff. Yeah, it's got the shepherd's crook and everything in it.
I know. Derek's little 4-footed cane that helps him with his balance issues.
It's like a higher tech version of what Moses carried. I mean, Moses would have loved having a little 4 feet on the bottom of his cane.
He would have.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll be there. I will be there for that weekend. The theme of the weekend is Giants, Gods, and Dragons, recovering the worldview, the biblical worldview of the apostles and prophets. Why did God mention these fantastical creatures? It's not because they're made up. It's because they're important. So valleyviewbiblecamp.com, if you can get there. It's about 90 minutes west of Winnipeg. And if you go to the website, valleyviewbiblecamp.com, click the tab labeled events in the top menu bar, and that'll get you to the information. April 10th through 12th, the Aliens, AI, and the Antichrist Conference. This is from our friends down at the Jim Bakker Show. L.A. Marzulli, Carl Gallups, Vicki Joy Anderson, Joe Ardis Horn, Alan DiDio, our new friend.
Oh,
Alan
isn't Donna
DiDio.
going to speak too?
I don't see Donna on the list, but she may be added to it. I said you really need to get Donna because she's...
Oh, I know. That's what we've been saying.
Yeah. And this will be there
Alan
at
DiDio,
Morningside.
who is, we just met him and we love him. He's
Yes.
like a brother. I mean, like a brother.
Wonderful. He's got a new book out that we're really eager to read called They Lied to You About the Rapture.
Oh, yeah. Love the title.
The title is not quite what you think. Anyway, the admission is free. If you want to come and attend
in person,
it is free. But you do need to register in advance because they've got limited seating and they need to make sure they don't put more people in the building than the fire code allows. That's important. So,
but you can stream it.
You can stream it. If you can't get to the Ozarks for the event, stream it. And there's an early bird discount. It's only $25, but the early bird discount during the month of February is just $18.
That's a deal.
That is a deal. I mean, L.A. Marzulli, Carl Gallups.
I know, right?
Sharon K. Gilbert.
Derek Paul Gilbert.
So, you'll find more information and a place to reserve your spot or register for the streaming video at readynowexpo.com. readynowexpo.com. The Go Therefore Conference, July 25th and 26th. We now have a speakers list for that. This will be at the Harvest Revival Center, Brookville, Ohio, outside Dayton. Dr. Michael Lake.
Oh, yay. I'm so glad to hear that.
Dr. Mike Spalding. Vicki Joy Anderson. Kenny C.
Now we're talking.
David Hefner. Casper McLeod.
Oh.
Tom Dunn.
It's the A-Team.
Yeah, and you and me.
Oh.
So, that'll be wonderful. July 25th and 26th, the Harvest Revival Center. It's a great facility. Pastor Neil Peterson's church is set up really well for an event like this. They've got like the youth group and the men's and women's groups. They basically get together and serve meals for lunch and dinner, so you don't need to leave the building, which is great. And then to help support their youth groups and things like that. So find out more at GoThereforeConference.com. There will be streaming video for that as well. The Remnant Rising Conference, coming to the Ozarks, August 22nd through 24th at the Oasis Hotel and Conference Center on the north side of Springfield.
Springfield, Missouri. Yeah,
yes.
it's
not
really
Springfield,
nice.
Illinois, not Springfield,
make sure
Massachusetts.
It's Missouri. Springfield,
Mo. Make sure when you're buying your plane tickets to fly in, the airport code is SGF, Springfield, SGF. We say this because we were at the Springfield, Missouri airport this past year, and there was a gentleman at the ticket counter very upset that they didn't have him on the plane, and then they came to find out he bought tickets for Springfield, Illinois.
Exactly.
So,
no, it's the Springfield Branson Airport in
Yep.
Springfield, Missouri.
And there's a shuttle from there to the Oasis Hotel. So speakers include L.A. Marzulli, Pastor Paul Begley, Heidi Begley, Jamie Walden,
Oh, good.
Tracy Tennant, Vicki Joy Anderson, Joe Artis Horn,
Boy, that Joe. He's
Donna
struggling.
Howell,
There we go.
Nita Horn,
Ooh, I love Nita.
yeah, and us.
Oh, and that. And L.A. Marzulli's following us around. Have you
He
noticed
is.
that?
I know. So that you find more information at hearthewatchmen.com, hearthewatchmen.com.
And you can go to gilberthouse.org and you can go to the calendar section
Right.
and see all of this information.
And again, all of this is at our app as well. Look under the calendar and upcoming events, and you'll find all of that there as well. We already talked about the Israel tour, so that basically is a wrap.
No, finally,
Yeah.
blather control.
Bible study
Totally
again
gone.
tomorrow, and then tomorrow night I talk about Trump and Gaza and all kinds of stuff.
Lots of blathering.
Yeah, more blathering, not quite as much, but when I'm doing it by myself, I've only got half the blather.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Send the dogs out there with you.
They were in the background.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's always entertaining.
It is. Until next time, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert. And for Grace and Glory, who are in the crate again, we love you. Bye-bye, everybody.
PID Radio is produced by Gilbert House and released under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Follow us online, Twitter @PID Radio or the PID Radio page at Facebook. Join us each week for our online Bible study, the Gilbert House Fellowship, online at gilberthouse.org.